Hello, how are you? If you're good, great, I'm happy. If not, I'm glad you're here. When we were kids, we would have birthdays, and parents bring out a cake with some candles on it, and you're supposed to blow them out and make a wish. I don't know if I remember any of the specific wishes I ever made when I was a kid. What a positive way to live, to think that you could make wishes and somehow they would come true. Like when you would see a shooting star, you would wish on that. You would throw a coin into the fountain at the mall and make a wish. Um, some people still make wishes, like if it's 11:11, that's time to make a wish. And stories through time have been all about making wishes. You had the monkey's paw, um, and that was interesting because your wishes always came with a negative aspect to it. There was a consequence to your wish. A lot of stories, maybe you'd make a deal with the devil to get your wish, and there was always a catch. Um, Even the best stories about the genie and the lamp. You get three wishes, but somehow they never really worked out properly. And hopefully by the third wish, your character learned enough to make the right choice. So it got me thinking, like, let's go with the genie thing. You got three wishes, and we're not gonna play any tricks with this. We're gonna say that whatever you wish for, you get. You don't have to word it properly. There's no trick to say, I wish I were 7 foot tall, and for whatever reason you're 7 foot tall, but you're the same weight. So all of a sudden you're this tiny little stick person who can barely stand up. None of that. So what you wish for is what you get. Now I would imagine that a lot of people would say, I wish for world peace because that's an altruistic, selfless act. I wish for $1 billion because that's the selfish part of people, that you think if you have that much money, then you never have to worry about anything again, or maybe you can help so many people if you had that much money. Maybe for some it's, I wish I could find the love of my life, or that your one true love. That's kind of selfish, but it's a harmless kind of selfish. It's wanting to be happy for the rest of your life with that one person that you found. You know, it's nice to think that we have these wishes, we have these wants for better. That's good. And I've given some thought to the three wishes that I might make if I found a lamp and some genie popped out. And they might sound a little strange to you, but I think if you really, really think about it, maybe it makes sense. My first wish would be that humanity would suddenly value knowledge over material wealth. And I think that's going to cover a lot of things. Like, once we decide that the pursuit of knowledge and information is more important than the pursuit of money and power, I think that would solve a lot of problems. I mean, can you imagine if the greatest minds on this planet, instead of trying to figure out how to make as much money as possible, if they directed all that energy into the pursuit of knowledge, and every person that isn't already a billionaire, if that's their goal, instead of chasing that paper or trying to scam whoever out of however much money you can get, if you took that energy and put it into finding out about things, learning things, I think that would be really cool. And money has like a cap. There's a point, and I bring that up because when you wish for $1 billion, you think that's your cap. That would set you up for life. I don't think knowledge has like a limit, and it also isn't like useless. I don't think anything you learn is useless. Even in the way of making conversation. Maybe you know everything there is to know about woodworking, and that's your jam. That's the thing that you have spent your entire life learning about and practicing and doing. Well, there's something interesting you can talk about with literally anyone. I mean, read the room, obviously, but there are interesting things that people know that you don't know and I don't know. And I think it'd be interesting to learn about them, especially from somebody who knows as much as possible about them. That's why we turn to experts when we want to know information about something. These are people who dedicate their time and lives to learning about a specific subject that maybe we didn't have the opportunity or the time to look into. I just think that this world would be a much better place if we valued information and learning more than we value the accumulation of money and wealth. I guess that's a thing that I grew up with, Star Trek: The Next Generation. I remember, I know, nerd, but there was an episode where somebody had ended up in this future and they didn't understand how we didn't have money anymore. People in the Enterprise, people in Starfleet, the New World, they didn't have money. They traded information, or there was the pursuit of information and purpose and the betterment of humanity. That was the valuable thing at that point. And this person from our present or near future couldn't understand that. And I just think that was an interesting point, that in an ideal future, in this utopian future where money didn't matter anymore and we were more concerned with knowledge and learning. Anyway, for my second wish, I would wish that medical science and medicine cared more about the cure than they did about the treatment. And I suppose that's I guess that's kind of a cop-out, because that kind of falls into the same wish as number one, where instead of coming up with medications and treatments that are designed to be lifelong and persisting, we should really be concentrating on cures, so that when people are sick, they can be cured of their sickness, and then they go away and they never need medical attention again for that particular thing. I don't understand this world we live in, where medicine is a profit margin. Insurance companies and doctors and drug reps and drug manufacturers and research, it's all in the name of trying to make as much money as possible. Now, I don't speak for the entire world, but I know that's how it works in this country. It's just frustrating that we are so bombarded by new medications that come out all the time. And they talk about your quality of life. And if you take this medication, your life will get a little bit better. But there are all these side effects that may or may not make your life worse. Hospitals are more interested in treating you long-term, for life, really, instead of actually getting to the root of the problems and solving those problems, curing people so that they no longer need treatment. And this goes for physical ailments, this goes for mental health ailments. Children are getting on lifelong medications earlier and earlier. And we think that we can placate people by giving them a pill and saying, take this twice a day and you'll feel better. Then there's a whole thing of finding the cocktail that actually works. So people could take years trying to figure out the right combination of medications to take just to manage their issues. Not interested in curing them, not interested in finding a solution, just finding better and more expensive ways to treat problems rather than cure them. So that would be my second wish, that instead of treatments, we found cures. And then I think my third one is pretty selfish, but I wish that somehow that in one swipe of a hand, everything that you have ever littered in your entire life suddenly falls out of midair and lands on your bed. Littering, I think, is the one thing in me that is just wholly unacceptable. I don't understand why anyone needs to litter or would litter. I see it all the time. I see people just open their car window sometimes and just throw out whatever they have. I've seen people walking on the street, and maybe they're opening a bag of chips or eating and then when they're done, they just drop it. I used to take walks down this stretch of road, and I would get so depressed because just on the side of the road, it was just this steady, light but steady amount of just garbage, trash that people discard in the middle of just the world. They don't care enough to hold on to this stuff until they can find a trash receptacle or a place to put it. I find someone who litters to be one of the more selfish things that anybody can do. Because, I mean, you're a person. You should be responsible for yourself. Just hold on to your trash until you can find a place to put it that's, designed to keep our environment clean. So I think that if suddenly everything you've ever littered in your whole life falls out of the sky and onto your bed, I think that would be a big eye-opener to a lot of people to say, hey, why? First of all, stop it. Don't do that anymore. And second of all, this is a representation of who you are as a person. Maybe you have a little tiny pile because when you're a kid, you just did stuff and maybe you didn't know much better and you didn't realize necessarily what you were doing. But there's a lot of people who have been, carelessly littering their whole life. And maybe at 40, 50 years old, their whole room would fill up with garbage from stuff that they've just carelessly thrown away in the streets. So that would be my third wish, is to make people look at themselves through the lens of, whoa, look at what I've contributed to the garbage problem of this world. Also, put your cart back in the cart corral. There's no excuse for that either. Be part of this society that we live in. Do the little things that matter. I know you're thinking, oh, it's just one cart. It's just, I'm in a hurry, just whatever. Somebody will come along and do that for me. They have people that are hired to do that. Well, yeah, they do, but that's no excuse that you can't do the bare minimum of walking 40 feet, sometimes, oh my gosh, 80 feet to return your cart to the little place where carts go. I don't necessarily want to know what your 3 wishes are because they're personal and, but what I wish is that you gave it some thought. What would you wish for if that genie popped out and said, you've got 3 wishes? And we'll go with the Aladdin rules, where you can't bring anybody back from the dead, you can't make anybody fall in love with you, and you can't wish for more wishes. So we'll just go with the 3. Give them some thought. They're important. And then, once you come up with those 3 wishes, maybe think about what you can do in your own little way to try and kind of make some of those wishes at least get started on coming true. I'll see you tomorrow.